Oh, I'm so bad at the Zoom thing. Okay, hello.
This is Annie. You guys heard her in episode 1 when she was giving me an empowered speech after I got fired in the middle of the pandemic.
I'm very frustrated. I'm just feeling like the way that this is going right now, it doesn't make any sense.
This was a very late night call, an impromptu call that I set up with her to discuss a particular frustration. A frustration that a lot of early stage founders go through. A frustration that was keeping me personally up at night every night for weeks. And that frustration is traction, or in my case, the lack of traction.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of Leap, the show documenting the process of building this startup, Nitsi Media. I'm your host, Hassan Resmi. For those of you who are new here, Nitsi Media is a media company that creates in-house shows and posts them on social media, and you are currently watching our very first one. Now, on the last episode of Leap, you guys watched me getting absolutely grilled by an experienced entrepreneur, the CEO of Space Chain, when I was giving him my very first pitch. I was trying to see at the time if he would hypothetically fund my startup, and spoiler alert, he didn't.
That's a horrible pitch. Talk about nothing. It's just a layer of facts piled together.
If you guys have 15 minutes, the episode is really worth watching. Go take a look at it. You'll see the links in the description or up here if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Now, after this disaster, I ended up honing my pitch for hours. I took all of his feedback into account and I kept practicing and perfecting my pitch, and I sent him a second one. Only that one, there was noticeable improvement. And he had a lot better things to say. If you ask me, this is incredibly efficient ROI. His feedback took me 10 minutes to listen to, hours to implement, and it's going to help me for the foreseeable future. And this is partly what the conversation with Annie was about. Basically, the problem that I was talking to her about is this. So far, traction has been slow. Obviously, that's partly because I'm just getting started. I mean, I've literally only posted 2 episodes, and I get that. But this is exactly where the problem is. I need to raise funding. And for me to be able to raise funding, I find myself falling into a catch-22. If I need to raise funding, then I need to have revenue. And if I need to have revenue, then I need more traction. And if I need more traction, then I need to post more content. That's exactly the problem. I can't post more content with Leap. As you know, Leap is a show documenting the process of building a startup. So that process is going to take its time. There's no way to fast track that, which is exactly why I only post an episode every 2 weeks. And my only realistic solution right now is to post content similar to the videos that I used to make in 2017. Habibis. Short, bingeable videos that are going to be easily digestible that I'm going to create on an everyday basis or almost an everyday basis. That is likely to gain me more traction, at least as fast as I need it to. So my frustration, if you haven't guessed it already, is that I didn't want to dilute Nitsi's brand and confuse you, the viewers. And here is why talking to your unofficial therapist or your partner is almost always a good idea. Annie came up with a very simple yet incredibly important solution. She suggested that we have a conversation. You and me.
You know, having a conversation, it's not gonna harm. It's not gonna hurt, right? And the frame could be, I'm struggling. I really want to make sure I'm putting out content, but the type of quality shows I want to put out at this stage are very difficult when I'm doing this by myself. And the only way to get additional manpower is with funding. And the only way to get funding is to put out more content. So it's the classic chicken and egg problem. As a viewer, what would you prioritize? Why not? Why not ask them that? And all the people that probably follow you right now are people that have been following you from the very beginning. So they're, if they stuck around till now, like, why wouldn't they stick around now that you're doing this full time?
It took a second for that to register there, but it eventually sunk in and I agreed. Listening to constructive feedback is practically always a good idea. As we saw in episode 2, it can really expedite our learning curve. And since I clearly still have a ton to learn, I thought that this was actually a pretty good idea. After all, it's just a conversation, right?
Your content is all over the place.
What's Nipsey gonna do,
They are too long.
You just need to assume that nobody cares about your story.
Boy, was I in for a surprise. All of this happened, and we'll get to that in a second. Let me explain what I did though. Instead of simply hearing your take on my catch-22, I decided to do something a little bit deeper. I asked you to review my performance with Nitsi Media so far. Kind of like a 360-degree review. And if you're unfamiliar with 360-degree reviews, let me explain. A typical employee review is one in which your manager is going to sit you down every specific period of time, and they're going to pat you on the back for the good things that you've done, and will give you constructive criticism, hopefully, for the bad things that you've done or the things that you could improve on. A 360-degree review is a little bit different than that. Instead of just getting reviewed by your manager, the subject of the review actually hears from practically everyone they've interacted with. You would get reviewed by your staff, by your peers, by your managers, and even by your customers. So that's why it's called 360-degree review. And for a small startup like mine, I really like this strategy. So that's what I did. I posted a story on Instagram and I asked you if you would like to join me on episode 3 to give me constructive criticism on how things are looking for you so far with Nitsi Media. Luckily, I got to chat with dozens of you, and many were off the record, but also some of you on the record, and you'll hear these people in a second. The 3 questions that I asked were as follows. What are the things that they like about the videos? What are the things that they dislike about the videos? And then I solicited solutions. Like standard reviews, we decided to start with the praise first, so take a look.
That energy you bring, there's not a lot of people that are like that.
Right now, your strength is in being raw and relatable.
They're genuine. So the content is just like whatever you have, whatever you produce is there, okay? And then in the middle, you start giving some information, and that's what attracts me.
They're always fun.
Real life things were very interesting, more than me watching you telling a story.
You can see the in your eyes, in your character, and how you're loving doing that. So
it's inspiring to a lot of people, I feel like. That's how it is for me. That's why I genuinely like watching it, because you get stressed out from work, there's all this stuff going on in the world, and then like you turn on your video and it's like a song like bringing the energy, you know? Like,
not bad, right? I mean, that's what you would think, but hold your horses. The criticisms are coming. Some criticisms were brought up way more than others, and then some were, well, totally out of left field.
you need to lose weight.
We'll get to that later in the video, but for now, let's just hear the more constructive criticisms.
You need to be more consistent on what you want to do with your video. Your content is all over the place.
you know, like those Disney and Marvel, they have, you know, Marvel's the superheroes, bad guy versus good guys, and Disney is like the fairy tales, their characters and stories. It's like, what's Nitsi gonna do? You know, like, who is this gonna be for, basically?
Now in the cards media, and people, when they think about that, they think, okay, these are the kind of videos that it makes.
In my opinion, in my experience, they are too long. I am watching a video. If the video is too long, I get the first few seconds and I notice, oh, this is boring. Okay, fine.
I don't know how to phrase this because I don't want to be the opposite of inspirational, but you just need to assume that nobody cares about your story, and you need to just be constantly showing them why they need to care.
Maybe you just need to be like, you know, more hyper in the videos. Like it's like the old ones actually know those videos you had more energy than the recent ones.
I think I do have solutions to at least two of the primary criticisms that we heard, namely the length and the consistency. Now, full disclosure, not everyone thought it was a good idea, but the following 3 comments summarize the overwhelming majority's thoughts.
Would it be diluting the brand, in your opinion, if I start making vlogs?
You just mean like another show, like it'll still be like on the same YouTube channel, on the same Instagram account. Right?
Exactly.
I think it's fine because the whole point of Nitsi is like, as a media company, is to have different shows. Like, you're not only going to have Leap, and you're not only going to be posting Leap. Like, no, you're going to be posting Leap. You're going to be posting, say, for example, the vlog.
100%. So if you just make the videos shorter, that would 100% solve the problem. And also, if you take people outside of the house, outside of the white walls around you, you can do it in a safe way during the pandemic. You can make it short. And if you really make this daily videos or the daily vlog, it would be like, for me, I can see this is, that's 100% better.
For you, as long as you're keeping it inspirational and people-based, and that seems to be the core of the brand you're trying to build, then I don't think it should dilute the brand at all.
Now, how ironic is that, though? The thing that I thought would dilute the brand, the thing that was worrying me about confusing you, turns out to be a major solution to 2 primary criticisms that a lot of you had. All those weeks and endless nights of no sleep put to rest. And I would have never found that out if I hadn't had a simple conversation with you. And that's the power of customer feedback. Paul Graham, the legendary investor and co-founder of Y Combinator, which is arguably the most influential startup accelerator in the world, he wrote an essay that partly talks about this. He called that essay "Do Things That Do Not Scale." In it, he makes the argument that early stage founders should take the time to talk to their customers one by one, even if that sounds inefficient and even if it doesn't scale. And the reason he suggests it is because it works. Maybe if they go out of their way to make existing users super happy, he says, they'll one day have too many to do so much for. that would be a great problem to have. And I really agree. And who knows, maybe that'll be me one day. So with that being said, you might be wondering, what will I be creating? So let's talk about it. Nitsi is by and for the millennial and Gen Y rebels, the bohemians, the counterculturals, the contrarians in us, who are inherently risk takers. And for those who are looking for a positive break from their busy lives every single day. And that's exactly what you could expect. Daily 2 to 5 minute videos that are going to be packed with energy, enthusiasm, and information. For the most part, the content will always be people-based, inspirational, value-driven, and entertaining. Some of you might be thinking that that's a ton of work and I have a company to run. And to that I'll say, yes, you are absolutely right. And that's exactly why I've decided to do this for 60 days as an experiment, just like I did in 2017. Only this time we're going to reassess after 60 days. We're going to see how things are looking. And yes, we will have another 360-degree review. But, and that's an important but, Leap is not changing. Leap will continue to be longer form content that is 10 to 15 minutes long, that is packed with information about the journey of building a company. And the beauty of doing both is that you can actually choose which one you want to watch. If you prefer to watch Leap, you could totally do that. There are playlists on Facebook and on YouTube just for Leap. Or if your heart desires the more bingeable and shorter form content, then you can totally do that too. You can expect to see the daily content at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or at 11 p.m. Egypt time. Now, with all of this being said, I think there's one more criticism that people are waiting to see. Here's the clip. Okay, got it. Okay. Any other criticism you have in mind?
You need to lose weight.
Oh my god. What does this have to do with Dada Dakar's media?
It has everything to do. When the host looks good and feels healthy, it has everything to do with it.
Yeah, so that happened. Now, before you pepper him with comments, this guy is one of my oldest friends and he was coming from a good place, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this episode. I genuinely appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for interacting and joining me on the conversation. I will definitely appreciate every single one of you a lot more if you like, subscribe, comment, and share this with everybody. Let's get them in on the conversation too. I'm so excited for the daily content. I've missed doing this so much. And please, if you ever have feedback, send me a message. I love hearing from you. My name is Hassan Rasmi, and I hope to see you next time. That was super helpful, guys. I really appreciate it. And
Okay.
if you think about anything else, definitely let me know. And one more thing, Luz, think about how you want me to write your name and title, what you want your name and title to be, because I write on every face, I write name and title, so you get to choose however you want me to describe you.
Okay, you can write loose Jedi.
Okay, I will.